This is TWiT.
So I am excited and happy to be able to start the show this week with some of the biggest news that everyone seems to be talking about. And I have no idea how Jonathan did it, but he predicted a lot of this stuff. A lot of this stuff. Somehow he read the tea leaves and he knew it was in the works. So the story isn't directly Linux news, but it is news about Valve hardware, or Valve announcing new hardware that will be running Linux, and hopefully another step to improving the gaming ecosystem on Linux. And even if you aren't a gamer, anything that grows Linux usage is good for all Linux users.
Mm-hmm.
And the Steam Deck, it must have been a great success, because this week Valve announced 3 new products, including the Steam machines, a VR headset called Steam Frames, and a new Steam controller. So starting with the Steam machines they announced, these are designed to be a Linux-powered living room gaming console, but doubles as a conventional desktop PC, running SteamOS 3, which is Arch Linux based with KDE Plasma. The CPU comes with a AMD Zen 4 processor, 6 cores, 12 threads, up to 4.8 gigahertz clock speed. The GPU is a semi-custom AMD RDNA 3 graphics with 8 gigabits of GDDR6 VRAM. Memory is 16 gigabits of DDR5. Storage comes in 512 gigabits NVMe SSD, or 2 terabytes. And expansion slot has a high-speed micro SD card to put more in there if you need. The wireless stuff in here comes integrated with a 2.4 gigahertz Steam controller wireless adapter, Wi-Fi 6E, and Bluetooth 5.3, and a wired gigabit Ethernet port, which is what I do with all my stuff. If I could wire it, I wire it. Display outputs, HDMI 2.0, DisplayPort 1.4, supports HDR and FreeSync. USB is 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1s, USB-A 2.0 high speed, and USB-C 3.2 Gen 2. Other features include 17 individually addressable RGB LEDs for system status and customization, designed as an open platform optimized for Steam. Next on the list was an unexpected item for me, is the Steam Frames. But it explains the ARM emulation work that Valve has been working on lately that we reported on this summer. And we speculated some kind of ARM device coming. I didn't know it was going to be a VR headset, but here's what that's all about. So with the frames, you're looking at a streaming first wireless VR headset designed to handle your entire Steam library. Lightweight and said to be comfortable, and also runs SteamOS 3. And with all these things running SteamOS, that means you really could probably put any Linux you want on there. So imagine installing whatever Linux you want on your VR headset. That'd be cool. You could really tinker around with that. But I digress. Let's continue. The processor is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, which is an ARM64 4 nanometer processor. RAM is 16 gigabits. Storage up to 1 terabyte UFS internal storage, and it has a micro SD card slot for expansion. The resolution is 2160 by 2160 LCDs per eye, because you got your 2 screens for your eyes there.
Mm-hmm.
Refresh rate up to 144 hertz. The lenses are custom pancake lenses. Field of view is 110 degrees. So, a little more than 90, I guess. If you think about a 90-degree angle, you got a little bit more. Audio and power, the audio is integrated dual audio drivers. Battery is a 21.6 watt hour lithium ion, rechargeable with additional additional battery in the rear, which can help with balance. I've seen add-ons for other headsets where you could put the battery in the back, and you got all that weight in the front, puts a little more weight in the back. The connectivity is Wi-Fi 7 with 5 gigahertz and 6 gigahertz VR streaming support. Bluetooth 5.3, USB-C 2.0 port on the rear for charging and data, and ships with 2 controllers included, the little handheld things that you kind of see in a lot of VR headsets, some similar setup. Finally on the list, we have the Steam Deck controller. Maybe by itself, it's not as cool as the other two, but it goes with them because this controller, it's visually similar to the Steam Deck controls, but no screen. Designed as a primary controller for the Steam machines and the Steam frames that I just talked about. Has 2 full-size magnetic thumbsticks, capacitive touch on the sticks too, 4 haptic motors, 6-axis IMU for motion, and then there's 2 capacitive touch areas like trackpads, which is just like on the Steam Deck has. Battery is 8.39 watt hours lithium ion for up to 35 hours of gameplay. USB-C connector, supports USB-C tethered play. And with all these, honestly, I don't need these because I play my games on the computer, but I know that I will be buying these. As long as I can afford them, I'll be buying them one at a time.
I will tell you, man, I've got one of the previous generations of Steam controller, and there are some games that I prefer it for over the mouse and keyboard. Particularly racing games are much better on a joystick, something like that.
One reason I've always preferred playing on the computer, especially with like shooting, is the preciseness you have with the mouse. Mm-hmm. But I imagine those little touchpads could probably fulfill that need pretty well.
Yeah, the original Steam controller, they emulated a trackball with it. That was the whole idea, is when you touch that touchpad with your thumb, it's supposed to feel like a trackball. And they did a really good job of it. Ken, is that your gaming controller of choice?
No, that's my home theater PC remote of choice.
Uh-huh. It's not quite up to playing games in the same way that the Steam Deck, the Steam controller is going to be.
No,
yeah, the thing with like flight games and racing games is you want that analog feel versus it can be a little digital with a mouse where you're trying to turn and it's too much and not enough. And
I feel like the mouse isn't bad, but I know sometimes on a computer when I am using the WASD, and I wish it would be more sensitive. Like, I don't want to just go all into the right, all into the left. I wish it could just go, be touch sensitive. Just go a little bit here, a little bit there.
Yep.
I got a feeling they're probably going to sell a lot more controllers than they will the Steam machine.
See, you say that, but the Steam controller in the past has not been their hot seller. So I don't know.
What? If you have a Steam machine, you probably want the controller. So everyone who has a Steam machine is probably going to have a controller or two, but there's going to be others. So I agree with that just because of that.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Jeff, as our hardware pro, what would you recommend I go ahead and get a discrete AMD GPU to put in my system to bring it up to speed to match what the Steam machine has? Or do you think I could get away with that integrated GPU still?
I would put a discrete in because they're using RDNA 3.
Yeah.
So they're going to be ahead of what you currently have.
And the hardware in that thing is very cutting edge.
Yeah, and just for reference, a PlayStation 5, which for all practical purposes kind of won the console wars, it's got a Zen 2 based CPU with AMD RDNA 2 based graphics, 16 gigs of GDDR6 RAM, and NVMe SSD.
So you're telling me this is well above that?
Yes. This is a lot more powerful than a PlayStation 5.
Well, FastFetch says that recognizes my CPU as a AMD Ryzen 7 7700 at 5.39. So I think that's going to be better than the CPU in the Steam machine.
Probably.
The
Yeah.
integrated is recognized as an AMD Raphael.
Which is just whatever they put in that with it. Yeah. So do we know the price point that any of these things are going to be at?
We don't. I've seen a lot of speculation out there.
Yeah. And any speculation you care to share?
I mean, this is just people like me and you, and the one that I go along with is $800 to $900 for a Steam machine.
That's a lot.
Other people have said 500, but that seems too little for that. When you think of, I don't know, maybe not. I guess if you compare it to like a Steam Deck, it's a Steam Deck except for without the screen, so maybe it should be less. I don't know.
The argument can be made both ways.
I'm comparing it with like a gaming desktop.
Yeah.
And you're still cheaper there.
Yeah, it should be cheaper. I mean, because they have just one hardware form they can crank out. Some of it's going to depend on how many think they're going to sell.
Mm-hmm.
The higher the volume, the cheaper they can make them.
Yes. Yeah. I have been impressed. You know, I remember when Valve first made their first foray into hardware and thinking, what are they doing? These guys are crazy. You're making money hand over fist on software. Why are you going into hardware? No, don't do it. And I have been consistently surprised and impressed with, one, that they've made such good hardware, and two, that apparently it's made business sense for them. They've made money with it without it, being ridiculously expensive. I am very impressed with Valve's hardware offerings and continue to be.
See, and we have a Briggs in the Discord says LTT said it will be more expensive than a console since they won't be making money off game sales like traditional console. I would disagree with that. I think LTT is way off on that one because it's an enabler for their system.
Yeah.
If they sell, 1 million of these at basically at cost or slightly, above cost,
mm-hmm.
That's just added that many people to their environment, into the Steam ecosystem.
Yeah,
yes and no. I mean, a lot of those people are probably already Steam users, so
yeah,
I don't know that it's all of those are going to be new added into the ecosystem.
Well, no, but I mean, it's going to help, and it pulls people that are normal Windows gaming people or console people
into PS5 users in, because they'll visit a friend who's a Linux geek and has gone into the Steam's environment. It's going to get where it's probably going to get is, if it's cheap enough, it can get the hardcore PC gamers, because it's going to be cheaper for them to invest in that and do the other things they want with it.
Maybe not the hardcore ones.
The hardcore ones won't, because the hardcore ones are going to be running much better hardware. Like for me, I've got better hardware in my PC.
Well, the really hardcore ones are going to have their hardcore desktop in one room and then also buy this to connect to their TV. There's another really interesting take on this that I was just thinking about, and that is sort of a very backwards and upside down vendor lock-in approach. So like a Linux machine, what option is there other than the Steam store? And you might say, well, you can run a couple of the other ones through Steam, or you can go and install something like GOG Galaxy, the old good old game store. They have a Steam client. But like, you're not going to be able to buy. Nobody is going to be installing the Windows Store and the Xbox Store and all of that stuff on this thing. You're not going to be doing what's the other big one? Epic Game Store, right? Like, there's not going to be any Epic Game Store on any of this hardware, and so that is sort of another take on this. That this is hardware that is basically only ever going to run with the Steam Store, and that's sort of a valuable thing to.
I'm going to disagree, because, like for example, the Steam Deck, you can run Xbox Cloud Gaming on there. I've done that as a test.
Oh, can you?
And being a Linux box, really anything that you can install on a Linux desktop, any other gaming thing, you could install on that.
You can.
And really, this potentially, if this is a system, I got a couple things, Ken. If this is a system, yeah, I heard you take on those breaths to talk. If this is if this system gets out there widely enough, this could open up the others like the Epic and whoever else be like, you know what, we want to be on there, and it could. Maybe they're going to want to improve their Linux gaming and provide ways to install that on that. Now, the other thing I had to say, Ken, as you said, taking away from console users, there is another rumor out there that the next Xbox is actually going to have Steam on it.
I've heard that.
So then they're going to have, depending how quick that is, there may be 2 Steam console options.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be cool.
Go ahead, Ken.
Well, with this being a Steam machine and there being a 2 terabyte version, I could potentially see some adventurous person installing Windows on a VM on it.
Yeah, sure.
You could, but I think you start getting into the level of people that could even install Windows on this or put it in a virtual machine are probably the more hardcore Linux people that are doing it just to say they were able to do it.
Like those of us
rather
here.
than actual using it because they would be more into the Linux ecosystem anyway.
Yeah.
I know the Steam Deck, you could install Windows on it, and I don't know anyone personally did it. I know someone who said they were going to buy one and install Windows. I'm like, why? Don't do that. But anyway, he never did buy one. So I'm sure you could install just Windows bare metal on this and get a decent Steam experience too if you wanted.
Yeah.
But I don't recommend that to anyone. It's a bad idea.
Well, we know it's slower.
Oh, yeah, that is true. Yeah. Benchmarks say.
So
the one advantage could be that you could play some of those games with the online anti-cheat.
There's going to be more pressure for those to
Yes.
clean their house on the Linux side.
And so everybody knows a lot of those online anti-cheat games where they go, oh, it won't work on Linux. It's a flip of a switch. They already have anti-cheat supported on Linux because they're third-party programs. It's just that certain publishers just say, no, we don't want it on there.
Yeah.
It's not a technical reason. It's not any major hurdle. It's literally, let's turn on the switch and go.
Yeah. If you enjoyed this clip, be sure to check out the Untitled Linux Show. You can find us in your favorite podcasting app or subscribe to our YouTube channel down in the links below. See you there.